What's up, guys? I'm Josh.
I'm Dut.
This is the first episode of Ridge Runner University.
We're going to talk today a little bit of why we got into this, what you would need if you're just starting. This is going to be more of a beginner's episode of what we would need if you were going to get into bushcraft.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just based off of what me and Dut have learned doing this over the years and how to make it easier on your first trip, because sometimes it's a little tough out here when it's cold and you don't know where you're at.
So we'll cover a little do's and don'ts, and we'll cover a little bit of the tools that we have when we first started. You don't need to go expensive or anything like that, at first. It's basically about just getting out there and having fun.
Yeah, our biggest thing is that people put these phones down and stuff and go outside and enjoy this because it's taken for granted and it's beautiful.
Yep. So sit back and prepare to have a little fun on Ridge Runner University.
First episode of Ridge Runner University. I'm Josh.
I'm Dustin, better known as Dut. On today's episode, we're going to talk about entry-level bushcraft, how to get into bushcraft. We're going to cover the tools that we use, the equipment that we use, and what we would recommend if you're just starting, just getting into bushcraft.
Yeah, a lot of the things you start out with, it doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to kill your bank account buying stuff. You can pretty much start out pretty simple. Just, we'll go over some things that you want to have on that first trip for sure,
Right. A lot of this stuff you pretty much would have basically around your house. I mean, like a knife and stuff like that. So, what do you recommend would be your go-to for a first-time beginner? What would you say would be a good thing to always have if you're going to just get into bushcraft?
I'm going to say my main thing always when I'm out here is I always have a good knife. You got to have a good knife.
I would agree with a good
knife.
I
mean, even if you can't get a saw, a good full-tang knife is going to help you out. You can use it as a hatchet. You can club it through wood to baton. You can split wood, make your fire last longer at night. So
yeah, I agree 100%. A good knife is essential in starting bushcraft. But again, full tang, you would need a full tang. You want to explain why they would need a full tang?
Yeah, I'll explain it. Because as you're using it and beating on a full tang knife, you're less apt to break it because it's all tempered together and it's all one piece. The only thing you're going to break is the handle in most cases. And then you can always just wrap some paracord around it, something like that, fix it. You're good to go, Yeah, you don't even have to buy a new one.
Yep, good choice, knife. My choice for a good entry-level beginner's kit for bushcraft would be the bag. A good heavy-duty bag that's going to carry some weight, that's going to be versatile, lots of pockets, be able to have lots of access at any given time. I like to carry an axe or a hatchet, so does Josh, so look for one with like pack on the side or something you can put some external stuff so you're not always in and out of your bag. I think a good bag is essential.
Like Dut said, a lot of the stuff, if it's hanging out here, it's easier to get to. I mean, in a situation, you want to get to some snares or your cup is hanging there.
Right. I wouldn't go light duty for a backpack at all or a rucksack or anything. I would find a heavier duty one, Doesn't have to be expensive, but something with some good stitching that's not going to fail out in bushcraft,
Yep, I agree with that. You want a bigger bag. You want to get used to carrying that bigger bag. I mean, me and Dud aren't even camping today, but there they are.
Right.
I mean, we don't need that stuff today, but it conditions you and gets you better for this environment because it will eat you alive, won't it, Doc?
Yep. What would you say would be another good tool for entry-level bushcraft?
Uh, Definitely a saw, and you don't have to go spend a bunch of money on that. There's a lot of bow saws you can
Right,
find at
good saw.
secondhand stores to start out with. It's simple. You don't have to take it to extremes.
I started off with one saw, and I had one saw for a long time. I now have a few saws on me, but that comes over time. I had one saw, and it got me by just fine for quite a while. So I do agree. Yeah, good
Yep.
saw.
For instance, I got this thing. It's the first saw I ever had. If I can get it out of this bag, edge that nut because it's stuck. All this was an old pruning saw that extended out so you could cut branches off of, and I just took the end off of it, pinched it between some wood.
Yep.
There
Bushcraft.
it is. It's not fancy. It's kind of ugly, but it cuts and it'll get you through a situation. It's helped us out.
Yeah,
Hasn't it, Doc?
that's part of bushcraft is making your own stuff. Yeah, good saw. That's a good choice. Good saw.
And another good saw, and we're gonna recommend it again, Duck, because I can't get enough of this little thing you bought me for Christmas. I mean, Santa Claus bought me. This thing's a dream. I mean, it just slices through stuff, like your finger, wood. It don't care. It's a good saw, and for $11, you can find them anywhere.
Yep. I recommend a good, like a blanket or a roll, something you could lay down at any given time when you're taking a break, sit down. You can lay your tools out on it, your cups, your dishes, whatever you're done eating. There's a lot of different ways you could utilize it. So a good heavy roll, I think, would be essential too, because everyone has one, right? I mean,
Yep,
everyone
yep.
has
Oh, yeah.
something you can use for a
Yeah,
roll.
absolutely. And if you don't really understand what a roll is, it can be as simple as a blanket with some paracord wrapped around the ends to hold it together.
Yeah,
And
something
that'll
that
get
you
you
can
through.
sit down on. Yeah, you can always use it for anything. There's multi-uses for it. You can dry your hands off if you have to. You can clean stuff off with it. It's just another thing that I would recommend, because it's light.
Absolutely.
They're small. I mean, you can't even. I have one in here. It doesn't even take up hardly any room whatsoever. Maybe this much in the bottom.
Yeah.
He carries his on a roll.
If any of you got access to an animal hide, I mean like a real skin out animal hide, I recommend that over anything. Because if you got it next to your fire and an ember jumps out, it's going to burn a hole through it. It ain't going to ignite your hut where you're going to not make it and be in a bad situation. If you have access to them, by all means, if me and Duck could fill a fucking hut with animal hides, we'd definitely do it.
Yeah.
Another thing we wanted to cover, I mean, we did cover a good, strong, full tang knife. But another thing we wanted to talk about is sometimes you need a smaller knife, and a little pocket knife is always handy
pocket
to
knife
have
is
for your
essential for
small
starting.
carving. Even skinning an animal.
Yep.
It's always handier to have a smaller knife, ain't it, Doc?
Yep. Always carry a knife on you and one or two in your bag so you have separate. If you lose one, or if you lose your bag, or something happens, you'll have another knife on you. It's always good to have two knives.
Absolutely. And also, me and Dud have done this too many times.
Yeah.
And we've learned over the years what we need and what's important to have out here.
Per season.
Per season,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, if it's midsummer, me and Duck might have a hammock and a bedroll.
Right, not much.
But still have our knives and our axes.
Good pocket knife. Yep.
Yep.
That's essential.
Yep. Winter, we're gonna have a little bit more than what we
Right.
have in the other seasons, but
Now, believe it or not, for another essential beginner bushcraft tool, if you're just getting into it and you want to go out and explore and try the elements, is this tool right here. I know I got one.
it's expensive.
No, yeah, very expensive. Where you have a light? Yep,
Right
here.
there. There you go, Doc.
This, a Bic lighter. Now, if you're just starting out, why I recommend a Bic lighter is once you go out and you build your shelter, right? You don't want to spend your first night without fire. but you can practice your fire. Get a fire going your first few times you're going. Once you get a good fire established, set up off to the side, and practice your primitive skills, which we will teach in later episodes.
Yeah, and I agree with what Dut's saying. You don't want to go out there your first time with a hand drill or a bow drill just expecting to get a fire. I mean, sometimes even with a ferro rod, you have struggle. It depends on the temperature,
it takes time.
the moisture.
So
Every situation is different.
Right, so always carry a Bic lighter or some kind of lighter with you. You don't always have to use it. If you want to get out there and practice to really get it going, your primitive ways, you can, but I recommend when you first start out, take Bic or some kind of lighter with you.
Right, yeah. And we're not saying don't practice your primitive skills, because that's pretty much what we're about. I'm not saying once you're comfortable using a ferro rod, or you get a couple fires started at home on your bow drill or hand drill, and you can do it for sure, then expand yourself a little more. But like Dut said,
we always carry one, and we've done this forever, and we still carry Bic lighters, right?
Because when that birch bark ain't taking off.
Survival situations, sometimes that's all you have. Sometimes you have nothing. That's when your real skills will come out that you will develop over time. But if you're gonna go out your first night, I recommend start a fire, be comfortable first, so you don't scare yourself away from it. Be comfortable. Practice your primitive skills off to the side.
And a lot of guys will argue with you about a Bic lighter in the cold weather because the butane won't work. Guys, stuff it under your armpit for a minute and keep walking.
With fire tinder, actually, a dead lighter could start, or char cloth. We have char cloth. A dead lighter will start a fire with that. And there's a few things we'll teach later on, but that'd be my other essential for beginner bushcraft.
Yep, definitely. You want a way to start a fire. A fire is essential.
Right. Now, eventually, if you want to, after years of doing it, want to go off and not have a lighter and really try it, that's totally fine. But this is, again, an entry-level episode. So for a beginner, I recommend lighter.
Yep. And like Dutch said, we've been doing this, it seems like forever now.
Yep.
And just always have a Bic, guys. Just get a Bic.
Right. What other tools?
Me and Dutch always like to carry a good axe or hatchet.
Yep, a good axe or hatchet is essential too for starting off.
Not necessarily I'm going to go down there and chop down a tree like a lumberjack, but as you're building a shelter or you're making a chair, you want to sharpen some points on some smaller diameter stakes.
Drive it into the ground.
You can drive it into the ground. You can sharpen the end with the chopping of the axe, Yep.
That's
very
essential.
helpful.
An axe is very essential.
And again, you don't have to, you can go to your hardware store and find an axe for a reasonable price, and it's going to work fine. I recommend a hickory handle and go.
Yep. There's plenty of different choices you can have for axes, hatchets that you can find along the way. It doesn't have to be expensive. Eventually, if you want to get one, it's a $500 one because you want to be the bushcraft extraordinaire. Totally fine, but when you're first getting into bushcraft, you can go to your grandfather's tool shed. He might have one laying around. Yard sales have them all the time. What else? Utility surplus stores.
Everywhere.
Military surplus stores.
Yep. You can find them at yard sales in the summer for $5.
Axes, hatchets.
And you might even find a top of the line when someone don't want it anymore or they don't know what it is at a yard sale. I found a lot of stuff like that, Doc.
Yep, me too.
Yep. Couple pocket change.
Yep.
Yep.
So there's stuff you can get along the way to build your arsenal to get into bushcraft, but I think we have basically covered the essentials that you would need getting into bushcraft if you were going to start your, making your own shelters. Or maybe a good tarp. A good tarp, if you want to carry a good tarp and set up your own tarp, instead of building a tarp shelter, a good tarp would be another essential.
I'd say anything 8x8 up to a
14x14.
Yep, you don't want to carry a circus tent.
No, they have some lightweight ones you can get online that roll up to here that you can take out. You can do triangles. You can set up teepees. They're versatile.
And again, like Dut's saying
Yep.
there, you can
good
use that tarp around your bedroll and then wrap it with the paracord again. That makes everything in your bedroll waterproof. And it's always great to have a good tarp,
A good tarp, yep. Just in case you don't want to build your own shelters. Me and him, we prefer to build our own shelters, and we will have episodes where we show you how to build a variety of different shelters, whether it's just bushcraft for fun, for hunting, if you want to build cool little blinds, or survival. We're going to cover the basis of all that in later episodes.
Yeah, and there will be overnights to come, and we'll show you guys, walk you through the steps that we do, and it's going to get interesting, so stick with us, guys. We appreciate all you guys for doing this and supporting us. Thanks. Till next time, guys. I'm Josh.
I'm Dut. Stay in the woods, my friends.